The June Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG ban list released just over a month ago. We've seen everybody's initial reactions to the ban list, but how does everybody actually feel a month into the format? How would you rate this format on a scale of 1 to 10, and if you had to sum it up in one word, what would that be? This is a question I asked some of your favorite creators to get their insight. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Bean Soldier TV. I have a lot of fun and unique content coming up on the channel, so hit subscribe so you don't miss it. With that out of the way, let's see what your favorite creators had to say.
If I had to rate the format on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably put it at about a 7 right now. I do like that they hit Kashtira quite a bit on the previous ban list, specifically the Big 10 Zone Lock combo and the Diabolos and all that stuff, but there are some problematic cards in the format. I did like a lot of the hits that they did on that Forbidden and Limited list though, and I think the format is developing in an interesting direction, but there's a lot of decks out there and that can be kind of hard to prepare for when you go to events. So that's why I didn't rate it any higher than 7. If there's one word to describe this format, I would say volatile. I feel like every single week there's a new strategy, there's a new tech popping up that the next week it's like instantly gone. It's very hard to prepare for that, but it's a lot of fun to play at tournaments when there's a lot of decks being played.
What's up guys, Justin from Cards and Coffee TCG here, and I just want to take a sec to thank Bean Soldier TV for inviting me onto the channel. I really appreciate it. But as far as how I would rate this current format, I would have to give it a solid 7. While this isn't the funnest format I've ever played, it's a fairly diverse meta right now, and decks right now at least aren't doing degenerate first turn combos that basically skip your turn. There is still stuff like the Puppet Lock running around, but I still feel like there's a wide array of decks to choose from in this current meta. Now, if I were to describe the format in one word, it'd be kind of hard, but if I had to, the first thing to come to mind is Arise Heart. Now, that's probably not the best descriptive word, but the format is so influenced by the existence of this card. So often I'm testing and building all these cool decks, and a lot of the times if they don't draw non-engine, then just a Rise pass can be a lot for them to deal with. But yeah, that's basically how I'd sum up this format. It's a solid 7, and the first thing that really comes to mind when thinking of this format is definitely Arise Heart.
Quick disclaimer, I took a break from the game and only kind of recently returned, so I'm still catching up on knowledge from the past formats to compare it to. But that being said, I think I'd rate this format a solid 7 out of 10. The diversity is really good, although it may be a bit stale since Kashtira still seems to be the best deck. I wish they didn't destroy the newer decks like Pearly and hit Cashmore instead with the recent ban list, but it is what it is. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm playing Labyrinth, Exo Sister just won a YCS. So it really seems like any deck can do all this format. It's not like tier 0 or anything. So if I could describe the format in one word, it would be diverse, for the reasons mentioned.
What's going on guys, Logan JYA here. What do I think about this current format? If I describe this thing in one word, it would be mid. And that kind of leads me into my rating for this format, a solid 5 out of 10. I think that most recent ban list that dropped in the middle of Philly was completely wild and uncalled for. It didn't do enough. It was overall decent, but could have been a lot better. And that kind of is my general reflection of the entire current format. All things be said, Tratron's still best deck, baby. Let's go.
If I'm gonna give the format a rating out of 10, I gotta say, I'll go with the amount of games I've played in it, which is 0. I don't like it. One word to describe the format. Kashtira? Or, man, I wish the format was low power enough for appliances to be at least a little bit rogue, or at least they get some more support. Please Konami, either one, I don't care. Please, 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 please.
Hey besties, and welcome back to Bean Soldier's Yu-Gi-Oh! Related YouTube channel. My name is Shiggies, and I play Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes. Unfortunately, Circular, Mathmech Circular to be exact, got hit last format. And as a die-hard Cybers gamer who was finally playing a deck that was winning, I was pretty devastated by this loss. If I had to rate this format on a scale from 1 to 10, my answer is quite simple. 1 Circular, so I will give this format a 1. 1 out of 10. And for you gamers out there, I will translate it. I'm saying L format. I'm kidding. It's a joke. I'm joking. If I really had to rate this format, I'd probably give it like a 6-ish. I mean, like, I think it's fine. If I had to describe it with one word, I would say it's a vibe. I think it's also kind of interesting because, like, Cybers gamers just have to be a little bit more creative with their decks now that Circular is at 1. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
What is up, all of my beautiful dudes and dudettes? It's me, Darth Nash 6, on here at Bean Soldier TV, here to talk to you about my thoughts on the current format that's going on right now. So the current TCG format, scale of 1 to 10, I honestly would rate it closer to 10 on the scale. I'd give it somewhere around like 7.5 to an 8. There still are oppressive decks, and there's a good amount of decks in the format right now, so it makes side decking difficult. But for me, somebody who is not hyper competitive, but is somebody who leans more towards the competitive side, and as somebody who likes to build goofy decks and have fun at tournaments, I like being able to face all of these different decks, and I like learning how to play around the current competitive decks in the format. If I had to sum up this format in one word, impressive. I like that word. We're going to use that word.
Hi, I'm Dyer, and I'd probably rate this current TCG format like a 6.5 out of 10. It's not awful, right? But it's not great either. Like, it just kind of feels like the exact same as last format, except there's nothing worth playing except Kashtira. Like, last format, you had Pearly, you had Super Heavy, and even Labyrinth to an extent, but now it's just like, you either play Kashtira or you lose. It's like not awful, but I wish that it could be better, you know?
Howdy y'all, it's Neshi, and if I were to sum up this format in one word, it'd be solid. Deck diversity is at its highest it's been since Pote, and I think the ban list has done a lot to promote that. Sure, Kashtira is still the best deck in terms of top cut representation, but the gap between it and other tier 1 decks is quite small. I mean, what's a Rise Heart going to do in the face of normal summon Sapphire Pegasus, am I right? We even saw Rika Sun Avalon win Euros. I'd give this format a 9 out of 10, completely biased by the fact that Golden Rule is legal, and held back by the fact that Magnamoot's still at 3. Stop banishing my poor Ruby.
I rate this format a 7 out of 10, and this format in a single word is diversity. I think what's very cool about the current format is, as a casual player, most decks that I'm seeing and playing against feel very fair to play against each other. There's a lot of cool new archetypes doing cool new things. You've got Vanquished Soul, Nouvelle, Rescue Ace, Makonko. I could go on and on about cool new archetypes that have come out in the past couple months. Decks that have continued to see support from Konami that have made them just competitive enough that you can steal games against big decks like Kashtira and Labyrinth. When you're playing against other casual players, feel just very fun and very engaging to play. I really actually am enjoying this format as a casual player. I only rated a 7 out of 10, mostly because of my lack of experience with the competitive meta, because from a casual perspective, I think that this is probably the most fun format that I have seen personally in my couple years of playing the game.
My buddy Josh, aka Bean Soldier TV, reached out and asked me if I could rate this meta on a scale of 1 to 10 for the current TCG format. What would I rate it? I guess I'd give it a 6. And if I had to sum it up in one word, I guess I would say mixed, good, We're in this flux period, right? Take this with a grain of salt. I haven't played much TCG. I only play during big tournaments, practice with my buddies once in a while, don't go to locals too often, but the sentiment feels good, almost there. Banlist definitely shook things up, almost. Kashtira is still good. Sprite's still good. Pearly's gone, and you know, Scarecrow and Super Heavies are also gone-ish engines, but these other decks are cropping up. Rika's winning, Labyrinth's doing well. It feels like we just like regressed one meta backwards, and that's like fine. I was very excited to play in the new format, and then it kind of just became, you can kind of play Sprite again and Kashtira. And I was just like, man, that's not what I wanted, but I guess it's a little better.
Hey y'all, Skyhawk here on Bean Soldier TV. Post list, I think the format, it's honestly, I really didn't like the list, and I still don't like the list. I think it should have done more to hit cash. I think Gamma shouldn't have been hit. I think that was a terrible decision, especially if we're leaving Dimension Shifter legal. However, I have to admit, the format has actually been pretty solid. I think you can play a lot of different decks and succeed. I don't think as many games are being decided by like crappy floodgatey blowouts. I think you have a lot of different choices for play style. You can play more mid-range if you want to play the Bestial Dragon Link deck. You can play Kashtira Lock. Fluandereeze has been good. Very many different Sprite variants have been good. A ton of Rogue has been topping. You can play like Striker all the way down to Fluffle. Somebody even got like 25th at a big regional with Numeron. So you can play everything. So if I had to give it a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it an 8. I actually think it's been quite fun to play and lab it. If I were to do one word, can my word be good with an asterisk? So my word is good star, because this is the problem I have with a lot of formats, where the format would be amazing if we got rid of the crappy auto wins. So my word is good asterisk.
Hey, GG here. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. If I had to put this format into one word, it would just be a lot. Honestly, from a competitive standpoint, it's not my favorite format by any means. There's way too many decks in the format, and I really want to see another tier 0, a triangle, even a top 5 would be fine. I think on a scale from 1 to 10, I would give this format a 6. They really should have banned D-Shifter before this format, and I think Cash would have been a lot more manageable, and it still would have been really strong, but I think that without D-Shifter, it would have been a lot better for a lot of other decks that realistically can't play the game because of D-Shifter, and dealing with one Arise Heart is way better than dealing with a card that lingers for 2 turns. Overall, I think the format's fine. I am playing Kashtira. I don't enjoy playing Kashtira by any means either. I think that deck is miserable to play. But at the same time, it's going to be the best deck of the format. You can play Shifter, you don't lose to Shifter. So it's the best pick for me. But overall, I think that hopefully next format is going to be a lot better. They hopefully will ban D-Shifter, and they hopefully will preemptively ban Calamity before that's a problem with Crimson Dragon.
This current format, I would say it's like a 7. A 7. It's better than the last format. I would say it would probably be like a 9 if we didn't have a Rise Heart and we didn't have Dimension Shifter in the format. But those are like the real big problem cards, I think. But I still think it's quite a good format in a lot of different ways, as much as any format can reasonably be called good or not. I'm excited to see what happens at Nats, and excited to see where things happen after Duelist Nexus 2.
Overall, I'm a pretty big fan of the format. There's a lot of diversity between the top decks and their playstyles, and all of these top decks have a distinct feel. It's not like Kashtira and Sprite and Labyrinth feel the same, and none of these decks feel unbeatable, and every single one of these decks can really fight for the board through a pretty real resource game. However, the power level of certain decks and cards, such as blowout cards, in the sense of like Evenly Matched, Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, can feel super oppressive and makes these matchups almost entirely dice roll dependent, since certain decks just crumple to cards like a Rise Heart, Skill Drain, just a nutty Sprite board, etc. But overall, despite all of this, I really think that this format is a pretty good one, and I enjoy it a lot.
Bean Soldier TV has asked me to rate the format on a scale of 1 to 10. If I had to do it, I'd say it's about like a solid 7. And if I got one word to describe it, just one, I'd probably say it's Yu-Gi-Oh, you know? Nothing in particular with this format really stands out to me. I think a lot of the glaring problems from last format were hit, like cards like Diabolosis, a Pointer of the Red Lotus being pulled off a thrust, and like Expulsion in Cyberstein like that. Miserable cards to have to deal with, right? But I think people also over-exaggerated how little we would see decks like Super Heavy Samurai with Scarecrow being banned and Pearly with Delicious Memory going to 1. I still end up seeing these decks in the competitive circuit, but you know, they're all a step behind that of Kashtira, for better or for worse. While I think Kashtira might be fully dealt with in the next list, we're still in a format where it's clearly the best deck. And it's not particularly a strategy that's really fun to play against or build around. I'll be waiting personally for the next big Zodiac format. Give me a ring then, right? Hopefully next format they unban the plan. Quick Fix just went to 3. Nobody's cared. You can unban the master plan. It's not that big of a deal, I promise.
If I had to sum up this format in one word, I'd say frustrating, which is why I'm going to give this format a 5 out of 10. I personally have never been a huge fan of diverse formats, and with Kashtira at the top of that diverse format, it kind of keeps me from wanting to play. I was also going to be an avid Super Heavy pilot, so I'm sure you can understand why I was a little upset at YCS Philly. There isn't a deck I'm super passionate about, which leaves my score in the middle of the road. But now I'd like to extend this question to you in the comments. What would you rate this format on a scale of 1 to 10? And if you had to sum it up in one word, what would that be? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.